I'm Jordan Hatfield. This is Faster Film Critic. Today on the show, we talk Children of Men with Kolter and Chase Fugel. Children of Men is a 2006 dystopian thriller directed by Alfonso Cuarón, starring Julianne Moore, Clive Owen, Michael Caine, and Chiwetel Ejiofor. The story takes place in the future when all women inexplicably become completely infertile. God, some generations have all the luck. Get in. We are going cinephiling. I'll bet you guys can't say Chiwetel Ejiofor 4 times fast.
I bet I can't say it once half-assedly.
Guys, I cannot wait to talk Children of Men. This is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I f***ing hate kids, so this is like my dream world. Just kidding.
Oh, dude, I've probably got 50 movies in my top 5, but this is definitely one of the films in my top 5. I love this film.
Yeah.
I'm going to go as far as to say this is a perfect movie.
It's one,
wow.
After watching it again, it is one of probably the most, maybe one of the most underappreciated and underseen masterpiece films.
I never hear it talked about.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It is a shame. Yeah, I'm surprised. People ask me all the time, like, hey, what's your favorite movie,
Yeah.
right? Make a movie recommendation to me. And I say Children of Men often, and they're like, what?
Who?
What's that?
Huh? Whose children?
Blows my mind. Did you know that this film was based on a book?
Yeah, not until I always take a deeper dive on some of these things for the show, and no, I didn't, and now I do.
P.D. James wrote the book Children of Men.
Mm-hmm.
I have not read it. I'm assuming neither of you have read it.
No.
It is now on the top of my to-read list. I'm excited to dive into that. I know there's some differences, and I know that Alfonso Cuarón didn't read the book when he made the movie. He didn't want the book to influence the film, which is really interesting.
That's a very strange approach if you think about it.
Yeah.
I didn't read the book, but I want to make a movie. Yeah, maybe it'll be close. Maybe it won't.
No, I mean, clearly he was very familiar with the story, but he did not want the intricacies of the story to influence his telling of it for the movie. I just think that was really interesting. But yeah, this is a book I'm going to go back and read for sure. Chase, I got to know. What'd you think, man?
That is a loaded question. But I had no idea what to expect going into it. I knew that you've loved it for years and wanted me to watch it for years. It wasn't really what I expected. I don't know what I expected because I went in completely blind. But
you know, this is the part of the conversation where I would say, I hope I didn't build this up too much for you. But in reality, I don't know that you can build this movie up too much. I just love this movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's definitely, it's not the feel-good movie of the summer. It's bleak, it's dismal, it's the dystopian world in which it takes place is kind of overpowering.
yeah, I think it could be a feel-good movie of dystopian summer.
Yes, the movie is heavy, and elements are very sad, but the movie is also beautiful, and that's what I find so amazing about this film, is it's dystopian and yet emotionally impactful.
Somebody were to ask you, Chase, like, what were the themes of this movie? There's its major theme, which we could kind of go back and forth about, and then there are several other themes that are interwoven throughout the story, and it's
Sprinkled throughout.
Yes. I think the major theme is hope. I think I've never seen a theme of hope like enveloped, wrapped in so much despair, and yeah, it's a very overpowering dystopian world. When I rewatched this, I couldn't help but notice, like, this world is so well defined. You can watch the movie probably a few times and never notice all of the details going on in the background. Like, this world is so well developed, so well defined that you're watching the main character walk from point A to point B. There's so much going on in each shot. It's very thorough.
Speaking of details in the background, this is really interesting. The film was shot in 2006. And at the time, there was a building in London that was being built called the Shard. It's now a super famous building. But it wasn't there in 2006 when they were making the movie.
Oh.
And so they went back in post-production and digitally recreated the Shard, put it in the film in the background so that it would be historically accurate. The film takes place in 2027. The Shard is going to be there in 2027, but it's not there in 2026. I think that's a really cool point. Speaking of attention to detail in the background.
Yeah.
That's
right. Well, I mean, if you want that story to age well, and which I think it does, very much so. Like you said, I think this could have been made today. I think that's kind of reflective of how well thought out this movie, especially from a visual standpoint, how well thought out it was.
Colter, you've seen this movie a couple times. Chase,
Yeah.
you've only seen it the one time, so I'm going to keep picking on you. What stood out to you the most in this film?
Two things cinematically that really stood out to me were, of course, the long shots.
Yes.
The amazing single shot, super long and complicated.
Yes.
I wouldn't even call it acting. It's like choreography at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
The director was choreographing everybody. And then the other thing visually that stood out to me was the color grading, the color of the film completely, which I still am unsure how to feel about. It was a
Gray
bold
and
choice.
drab.
Gray,
Yeah.
drab, dark greens. It reminded me of the color grading in the green room.
Okay.
remember
Okay.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of that desaturated look. That was a really popular look from like the late 90s into the early 2000s. It was like a lot of desaturated colors in films.
Yeah. With it being a film that takes place in the future, it's the color grading puts it at a certain place in time, which is a little hard for me. Like you can tell when the movie was made. What did you think about it? Did it bug you?
The color grading of the film? No, I think it very well matched the feeling of the film and added to it.
Like the bleak.
Yeah, exactly. So the color
Yeah.
grading didn't bug me. I wouldn't argue with you when you say it dates the film. I see why you say that, but I still think it was the right choice. It didn't bug me. I really appreciate the look of the film, despite maybe some of that dated aesthetic that you refer to. I do want to talk about the long shots, though, because one thing that I absolutely love about the long shots in this film is very technical, and some of the shots in this film are still talked about today, almost 20 years later.
Yes.
But one thing I love is a lot of directors will make a movie with really long shots just for the sake of really long shots.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's become kind of a badge of honor for some people. Like,
Yeah.
I shot a 13-minute long shot.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And some of that is cool, I agree. But Alfonso Cuarón has talked about this, and the use of his long single shots in this film are very deliberate.
They are.
His use of long shots is only to enhance the story. That's his focus.
Yeah.
And he has said that, number one, they ground the film in real time, which I really
Yes.
appreciate. But then he also talks about how when the scene is done, when the scene communicates to him that it is time to cut, that's when he cuts.
Huh.
So
Okay.
it isn't a matter of, hey guys, we're going to take a 15-minute long shot here. Let's figure out how to make this work.
All right.
It's, we're going to shoot this scene the way it needs to be shot, and when it's done, we'll cut and we'll move on to the next. And he's letting the art of filmmaking speak to him
Yes.
as opposed to him
Yes.
pushing his demands on the art.
Yeah.
And I absolutely value and respect that. That comes through in this film. And some of these long shots are absolutely incredible.
They are.
I don't know how he
Dude,
filmed some of them.
Yeah, when it's done as well as it is in this movie. So a couple points there to complement what you were saying. A lot of times you would see the camera work employed in a movie like this would be on a steady camera. Somebody would have it on a little gimbal or something. Here the camera's mounted directly on the cinematographer's shoulder. So it bobs as he's following the main character, which gives the sensation that we're, as an audience member, that like our perspective is that of a real person kind of following the main character along. So you think about that first scene, we follow the guy, we see him enter the diner, we watch him walk out of the cafe or whatever it is, takes the left, puts his coffee on top of a post box or newspaper box, pours some booze in it, the camera kind of circles around him. And then there's that pants shitting explosion that just like comes out of nowhere. And it's really jarring. Like I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, holy shit. And
Yeah,
kinda,
you do not expect it.
Oh, you don't, man. And that's what makes it so effective is it's so many of those moments are telegraphed in any other movie. Whereas this it really is like it's a 5-alarm pants shitter. And if you didn't have that slight bob to the camera that kind of emulates someone walking down the street behind him, and then later on in the movie, there's this firefight where Clive Owen's character is kind of traversing, and there's a moment where like blood splatters land on the lens of the camera, which is like if you were wearing eyeglasses or something following this guy around. And it's that kind of raw energy that's like you said, it's not just done as a gimmick, like, oh, check out a 13-minute, who gives a shit? This is really employed to be really, really immersive as an audience member, and it really sucks you into the world and what's going on. And you identify, it feels like you're running with the character, you're huddling next to him, and there's a danger, and it's freaking amazing, man.
So I want to talk
Very
a little
effective.
bit about the blood splatter on the lens of the camera during that scene.
Sure.
It sounds like you like that.
You know, I don't always find something like that effective, but in this movie I do, because the fact that it wasn't on a steady cam, but there's bobs to the camera's movements, which, again, it's like we're following him almost in person as opposed to being a spectator. Well, as opposed to being someone idly watching something, we're almost kind of involved in it as a viewer.
So here's something really interesting about that scene. They've got the set. They've got 2 weeks on set to film this scene. And it's a really long shot, very intricate, very complicated, very expensive.
Yes.
The production studio was very worried about this scene. It would take hours to set up. And so if there was ever a problem and they had to reshoot, it was a tremendous amount of work, hours and hours to reset everything up and reshoot the scene again. Well, they're running out of time. And they've got what I believe to be is their really last chance to get this scene right. And they're going through, blood accidentally splatters on the camera, unintentional. Alfonso Cuarón yells cut, but nobody hears him because when he yells cut, there's explosions going on.
Sure.
So they keep rolling with it. Alfonso Cuarón in the moment is thinking, I can't cut. We don't have enough time to reset up again. We're going to lose our time on this set. Well, in post, when both the cinematographer and Clive Owen saw the blood on the lens, they absolutely loved it. And they convinced Alfonso Cuarón to keep it in. And it was in that moment that Cuarón realized it was perfect. It was unintentional. It was an accident, but it was perfect. I just think that's a really cool backstory to that scene.
Yeah.
Well, it gives it kind of a documentary feel, which I think is part of the
Yeah.
idea. I mean, the camera work in this movie cannot be understated, and I think that almost in itself is kind of a star of the movie. It's kind of what makes the movie work so well, because oftentimes, you know, we're following the main character or a set of characters around from point A to point B, but it's not always focused entirely on the character or their action. It departs. It's like a real person, like noticing things as they walk by, and the camera will swivel over to, you know, a group of people over here or what's going on over there, these details. And it's just, that's why I think stuff like that works so much for me. In the blood, you know, it's like, oh, it's like, you know, you're getting it in your eyes, and but you know, you don't have time to wipe it off or sit down and think about it. You got to, you know, you're moving, and it's so effectively kinetic, whether it's just stuff like that or it's action scenes too.
Again, Cuarón has talked about this, and I find it absolutely fascinating, particularly because of the complexity of the shoot. Along with the long shots, a lot of the reactions that we see from actors are completely improvised.
Yes.
They are real, natural reactions to what's going on set. You've got an explosion, and Clive Owen wasn't expecting it, and he reacts to it in a way that's very real.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
Alfonso Cuarón refers to them as accidents, right, throughout the film. But it's these accidents that create this realism in the film that is felt but isn't necessarily perceived.
It's how effective directors direct. Directors' approaches range from like experimental to wildly inappropriate. I mean, we're the three of us, I'm sure, have been privy to basically what equates to abuse. Some directors will be so harsh with their actors to elicit a certain performance out of them. I have to say, though, sometimes the end product really is brilliant, as awful as the approach might be in those situations. But yeah, it's crazy. And that first scene with the explosion sets the tone so perfectly for the rest of the movie. You know, you never quite know what the hell to expect after that goes down.
It's amazing how quickly it just completely draws you in.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know who
Yeah.
this guy is. You don't know what's going on. But all of a
Sure.
sudden, you are at the edge of your seat, and you are fully engaged.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes. And it's also one of the few films, contemporary films, I would say, that like the plot continues to build on itself very, very effectively. I've always loved this film since the first time I saw it, but my appreciation for it has grown even after watching it again recently. I mean, it's very moving.
Yeah, I find it very moving too. Very emotionally impactful, for sure. I do want to talk about the long shot. It's not the longest shot in the film, but it is the long shot that everyone talks about. And that is the camera in the car.
Yes.
That is such an amazing scene. You've got this group of people in this car, this little car, it's a little Fiat, and it's driving down the road, and the camera is moving around inside of the car.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And it's capturing everybody. And then all of a sudden they get attacked by terrorists. They throw the car in reverse. They're driving backwards. You've got terrorists coming up on side of them, shooting at them, and explosions and guns. And the camera is moving around in this little car, and it's able to capture everything It is absolutely engrossing, encompassing, engaging, thrilling, magnificent. It's perfect.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's so much going on. Every time I watched that scene, I got sucked in. But then when it's over, I thought, Jesus Christ, how the hell did they get a camera to fit in between all the characters going on in this car? Like, what the hell was the setup there?
Yeah.
And not to mention, you've got hundreds of people pouring out of the forest in pursuit of this vehicle. You have to have the timing of the flaming car coming down at the beginning to be just right. I mean, can you imagine how many days it would take to block a scene like that? And then you've got Julianne Moore's characters who get shot in the neck, so there's blood effects that they have to do themselves as actors. And then there's the action thing where they're getting chased by the motorcycle, and that flips over. I mean, there may have been a little bit of CGI trickery in that when you watch it. It'd be hard to do that physically in real time, but they may have. I don't know. But
yeah, no, there is some. Like when the motorcycle flips over, that's CGI, the motorcycle accident. There's a little bit of CGI in there, but
okay.
You're right. The camera in the car by itself is so impressive. But then you put it in this scene that is so complex and also so long. It's a long shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just absolutely mind-blowingly impressive.
Yeah. And that scene is only about 4 minutes long, but it feels like 20. And it's because, like, you're in there, you're in the car. It's this claustrophobic, you
So
can't
tense.
run. Yeah,
So
you
tense.
can't do anything. Awful things are happening, and it's just impending doom. Yeah, it's nuts.
So technically, the film is perfect, right? I mean, it's just absolutely perfect. It's amazing. But I also want to talk about the writing, because I also think the writing is brilliant. You hit on this earlier, Kolter.
It
You
is.
said that throughout the film, the narrative is building on itself. You're not exactly sure what's happening right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And the story reveals itself in very interesting and creative ways. I think it's intelligent writing, and there's one example of this that I want to point out. And that is when Theo arrives at Jasper's house for the first time.
Right.
And they sit on the couch, and Jasper starts talking about the uprising. And in a very normal and natural way, Theo jumps in, he gets animated, he starts talking politics, he's complaining about this and that, and the viewer gets to see from his perspective what's going on in this reality.
Yeah.
And then he stops and he looks over at Jasper, and Jasper's like, God damn, dude, I was just trying to tell a joke.
Right. Yeah.
And then Theo's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then
Yeah.
Jasper picks up and he starts with his joke again. And it's just such a brilliant way to communicate to the viewer what's happening in a very natural way that's also comedic. And it is just one example of great writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Michael Caine is, you could say he's decent in just about anything he shows up in, but he's also Michael Caine in a lot of what he does. And this was a bit of a departure. I really enjoyed his cameo in this. And this is the only source of levity offered in this movie. He's the only character that's got a little bit of humor to him. And it's the first time as an audience you could sit down and just go, ugh, and kind of just relax, sort of, for a minute, even though you know in the back of your head, like, this isn't going to end well. Anytime you get attached to a character who's seemingly very peaceful in a world that's so dismal and full of violence and uprising, and all that is to say, I really liked him in this. It was a nice surprise. He was really good in it.
I agree. I loved his character. I loved all the characters in this film. I think this is one of Julianne Moore's best performances.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think she was perfectly cast for this role. I'm not a huge Julianne Moore fan. There are movies that she's done that I've really liked, but out of all of her movies, this one is my favorite. She is very believable in this role.
She is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her sort of detached chemistry with Theo is also very believable. Everything about this movie, I think, the characters, the writing, the world is very grounded and believable. So I think, to your point, yeah, man, she was well cast. And, you felt something between, even though they were a little bit estranged. I mean, those two characters, it worked really well especially for the purposes of the movie. And I think even more so when she meets her demise and the effect that we see, although temporary, the effect that we see it have on Theo in a pretty vulnerable moment where his character has to normally portray a lot of strength for the benefit of Key, the character of Key.
And again, to throw as much praise at Clive Owen as I possibly can, his portrayal of emotion throughout this film is absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, it's good. Where the hell did he go? What happened to that guy? I haven't seen him in shit in forever.
Yeah, he hasn't done a lot.
That's the first time I've ever seen him.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
He's done other films, but he hasn't done a lot, and nothing as good as this.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. But he's a great performer. I just don't know, like, what the hell. He was in that horrible Daisy Ridley movie for like 2 minutes before he got killed off that nobody saw and nobody cared about. But other than that, yeah, where's the guy been?
He's in Inside Man. He's in Sin City. He's in Pink Panther. I mean, none of these
Sin
movies
City.
come anywhere close to the quality of Children of Men.
No.
And he was absolutely fantastic here. You're right. I don't know why he hasn't been cast more. He's a great actor. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Chase, I want to start with you. What is your favorite scene in this movie? Can you answer that question? It's a difficult question.
You know, I'd probably say the opening scene.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we already talked about why it's so great. And those opening lines where it says the youngest person in the world has been killed or something along those lines.
Baby
It's like
Diego.
such a weird concept. At first, I was like, what?
Yeah.
The youngest person in the world? Because I didn't know what I was getting into. So I was like, what?
Yeah.
People are always
Kinda
being
sucks you
born.
in.
How does that... That doesn't compute.
Yeah. I don't know that they ever explain the cause of the infertility.
No, they didn't, and I'm glad they didn't.
No, yeah, same. But I kind of envious, Chase, that you got to kind of go into this without knowing anything about it.
Yeah. It didn't follow like a 3-act structure. Like you said, the plot like keeps evolving. I mean, you're just following this guy and everything that happens to him and around him.
Yeah.
By the way, minus one scene where Jasper is preparing a suicide shot for his wife, Clyde Owen is in every single scene of this movie.
No shit. I don't think I realized that. That's crazy.
His character is such a perfect hero because he's so flawed. As a person,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
he is not your Ethan Hunt, right? Character.
Right.
Speaking of
Yeah,
3
yeah.
weeks of Mission Impossible. He is not your Ethan Hunt hero. He is a very human, flawed character.
Yes.
And not someone that you would ever expect to kind of, quote, save the world, unquote, right?
Yeah.
But he rises to the occasion, and it's very easy to connect with him and
Yeah.
like him and root for him throughout the whole film.
I mean,
Yeah,
you see
hell
him
yeah.
at the start so desensitized to
Yes.
everything. And then it goes to the finish, and it's complete contrast.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think the message in that is regardless of how bad things get in our lives, there is always room for hope. There's always space for hope.
Sure.
And we all, in our own individual realities, need to find it.
I'm trying to, man. You know, shit. Stop.
Don't give up, Kolter. Don't give up,
Yeah.
man. I love you, brother.
Jordan, dude, what was your favorite scene?
I loved right when it started, all the way through right when it ended. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's your favorite scene?
You know, I would have to say my favorite scene is when Key has the baby and they're coming out of the building and there's the war
God
going
damn it.
on between
Yeah.
the fishes and the British government. And
Yeah, that's mine too.
these people come out of the rooms and they hear this baby cry and they go silent and they quit
Yes.
shooting. And as they start to come down the stairs, you know, the British soldiers hear the baby
Yeah.
and they're stop, ceasefire, hold.
Right.
And they walk down the stairs and everything stops. And it is such an emotionally powerful scene to me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I feel it at my core every time I watch this movie. I've seen this
Yes.
movie 5, 6, 7 times now. And I get choked up every time I see that scene because it's just this overwhelming sense of the beauty
Yeah.
of humanity.
Yeah, and the purity.
And the purity. And it's all wrapped up in such ugliness.
Yes. Yeah, literally surrounded by it.
That is so powerful. I think that is so powerful. And then he comes out and all the military guys are gathering around and they're just amazed to see this baby. And they're just,
Yeah.
I mean, they're just absolutely dumbfounded by the miracle, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
in our realities today, babies are born all the time. We're like, oh, cute baby. Oh, yeah. Now he stinks. Hand him back to his mother, you know? But
Yeah.
here, they are really mesmerized and overcome by the miracle of childbirth,
Yes.
right? In
Yeah.
this scene. And again, it's captured so well, brilliantly. And then all of a sudden, someone shoots and everyone immediately goes back to the death and destruction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely and I'm sure it was completely intentional, but there's notions of religion in this moment where he's kind of walking out with her and she's holding the baby in her arms. But yeah, man, it's such an overwhelming kind of powerful and moving scene, and it's kind of a pumped up version of a scene that, the same scene where Theo stumbles upon Key, and even in that she has kind of an arm holding her breast and one over her loins, and it looks like that famous painting, resembles that almost to a T, and that look we see on his face of just sheer kind of disbelief, but also kind of joy and wonderment, and it's like that scene, but kind of just pumped up to 20, and that's nuts. I mean, we're literally just like following him, and his tanks are firing into this building and getting fired upon, and just it's really, really, really impactful, man. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let's go ahead and rate this film, Children of Men, on a scale of 1 to 5. What do you guys give it?
I'm still trying to process this movie. I think that's what it is. Watching it last night, I didn't have enough time from then to now.
That's fair.
It is crazy.
I've seen this movie multiple times over the span of multiple years, and I still don't feel like I've had time to process this movie completely.
Yeah, it is something else. If I have to land on something, I'm going to go 4 out of 5, but that could change at any point.
Personally, I think movies like this approach something as close to perfection as a movie can. This movie is as engrossing as it is exhausting, and I don't say that it's exhausting to be a bad thing, but all those pieces combined, it's overall masterful. It's paced extremely well. It's written very well. It's shot very creatively, but also very realistically. The future in which this movie takes place is one of the most believable depictions of a future I've seen, where it's just enough kind of technological stuff, but it's not overwhelming. It's not look at this and look at these toys. It's really grounded, and visually it's just extremely interesting and compelling. I appreciate the themes of hope, but there's also a lot of notions about immigration and religion that I think kind of make the movie very interesting and work as a whole, and also it helps keep it relevant, I think, through years of scrutiny and kind of enjoyment. So it's an easy 5 for me, which I know is kind of reserved for what we would consider to be a perfect movie, but I think this gets as close to that as a movie can. So it's a 5 for me.
I'm also going to give this film a 5, no surprise there, based on my commentary. However, I will say I don't feel like giving this film a 5 is high enough. It's one of the few films where I want to give it a 6. I mean, this film is just that for me. I absolutely love it. It is dark, it is bleak, it is heavy, but it is also beautiful. And it also has a message that is touching and uplifting and hopeful and important. The film is technically difficult. It is written magnificently. The characters are wonderful. It takes place in the future, but yet it resembles the present. There is so much ugliness in the world, and humans are so incredibly mean to each other. And yet this film, despite all of that ugliness, reminds us how special and precious life really is. And I just think that message is so important. It was important yesterday, it is important today, and it will be important tomorrow. Absolutely love this film. Could not recommend it enough. 5 stars from me, but please, we want to know what you think of Children of Men.
All right, following a movie like this with a fitting recommendation is no easy feat. And I am not going to say that it's the same caliber of a movie as Children of Men, but Alex Garland's 2018's Annihilation is a fascinating and very unsettling science fiction horror film exploring themes of grief and self-destruction. An all-female team that's actually assembled for an intriguing and interesting reason and not just to check boxes is sent into an area to investigate the presence and effects of an extraterrestrial phenomenon. It is unique and terrifying, and one that definitely deserved more attention than it got, so go check it out.
Thank you for listening to Faster Film Critic, and please join us next week when we go back to 2002 to discuss Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later in preparation for 28 Years Later. You can also follow us on Letterboxd, Cinetrack, and Instagram. Email us at fasterfilmcritic@gmail.com. Hit us up with questions, comments, feedback, or review requests, and please share this episode with your movie-loving friends.